the big question. So you want to quit your job without having another one lined up, and you're asking yourself, how much money do I need to have saved up? How much money do I need to prepare before I can make that big step and quit my job? So in this video today, I want to share with you my experience of quitting my job without having another job lined up, and how much money I quit with, definitely much less than I needed, and what things you should consider in coming up with that number. And now let us start calculating that number together, and I will walk you through 4 steps. And keep in mind that this is just a very generic example. To get to that number, to get to that magical amount that you need before you can quit your job, you really need to build in your own assumptions that apply to you. So step number 1, the most basic one, is to calculate your living cost. How much money do you need to cover your living costs from your last day of work, from your last paycheck, until you're able to make a full-time income from your new career? And it's really not easy to do. I mean, if you're building a new business, for example, on paper it might say that you'll be able to break even and make a profit after 2 years. Whereas in reality, it could take you 3 years, 4 years, and so on. But it's a totally different story if right now, while you're still in your full-time job, you already have a side gig. You are already freelancing and taking some client work and already earning some money. And you know that once you quit your full-time job, you will be able to redirect that time and energy into your freelancing full-time. And you might be able to estimate that in, let's say, 10 months from now, you will already be able to replace your full-time income. So let's just say that you estimate that to take 10 months, whereas your monthly living costs are $2,000. So 10 months times $2,000 is $20,000. So one criteria you can use to come up with the number of months is estimating when you will be able to make a full-time income from your new career. Another criteria that you can also use is to decide at what point, after how many months, you are willing to go back to either your old job or a similar kind of job, or even taking on a crappy job that covers your expenses. So for example, if you're building a new business, you can tell yourself, okay, I am going to give myself 24 months or 2 years. If in 24 months from now I am still not earning a full-time income that covers my living cost, I will be going back to a full-time job. So in that case, the number of months that you can use for this calculation is 24 months. So for this example, let's just say that you've decided that you need $2,000 for the next 10 months, so $20,000 in total. Now let's go on to step number 2. Here you need to calculate the extra costs. By extra costs, I mean any costs that are out of the ordinary. For example, repairing your car because it's about to break down. Or travel expenses just in case, after having worked for 5 or 8 years straight, you're planning to go on a trip to just rest and relax first before you continue with your next stage of life. And by the way, guys, here I'm not advising you to splurge on things that you do not need. All I'm asking you here is to be totally realistic. You might have made up your mind that after you quit your job, you are going to start this frugal and thrifty life. And this is where it's so important that you know yourself. If you know that despite your plans, you are still likely to go on this one trip, or you are still very likely to do that one repair on your car, then you need to budget for it. Because one of the worst things and saddest things that can happen is that you quit your job and you've already budgeted so well, and then comes this one very unexpected expense, as simple as replacing your laptop. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, I don't have enough money. But you're in the middle of building your business, of developing your new career, of going back to school, and you are forced to go back to a job. And because you're in that very tight financial situation, you're even forced to go and take the next best crappy job. And you really don't want to be in that situation. So make sure that you budget for those extras. And in this example, let's just assume that that is $2,000. By the way, guys, if you found this video useful so far, then please let me know by hitting the like button. And also do leave me your comments down below and tell me what you think of this video, and also what specific things you would like me to cover more in the future. Now let's go on to step number 3, and here's where we get to the most important chunk, which is investments into your new career. Because yes, in many cases, if you want to make a rather drastic career change, it does require you to invest some money. That might either be to go back to school to get a second degree or a master's degree, or to upskill, get some training and a certificate in something, or it could also be as simple as signing up for online courses and learning your new skills online. But in any case, it will definitely cost you some money. And if you are not prepared, if you do not have that money, you will not be able to invest into your new career, and it will prolong the whole process. It will take you even longer to start your new career and get to the point where you will be able to earn money from it. So let's just say in this example, you're planning to go back to school to get a certificate to reskill, and that will cost you $20,000. So far, we've got living costs, $20,000, extras, $2,000, investments into a new career, $20,000, and that adds up to $42,000. Now, step number 4, there's a fourth very important component if you want your plans to go smoothly and you do not want to be forced to go back to your old job. And that is that in your budget, you need to have a buffer. On top of all these expenses that we've calculated, you need to add a contingency. And that might mean that you just slap on 20% on top of everything. So far, our subtotal is $42,000 plus 20%, which is $8,500. Our total amounts to $50,400. And you might ask me, how do you come up with this percentage, this 20%? So it really depends on how risk tolerant you are. The more risk averse you are, or the more afraid you are to take any risk, the higher this percentage has to be. It could be 30%, 40%, or even 50%. Don't you wanna be? So we arrived at this magic number, $50,400. And this is what I call the Career Freedom Fund. And no, this money does not go towards your retirement. This is not retirement planning. A retirement account, retirement savings, gives you the freedom to do what you want after you've retired. Let's say that's 65, or if you retire early, let's say that's at 50 or 45. But a Career Freedom Fund gives you the chance to do something about your life right now, not later in 10 years or in 20 years, but within the next 2 or 3 years. The purpose is to buy you freedom to do whatever you want with your career. Having a Career Freedom Fund gives you the freedom to leave a career that's really not for you, to change careers, and to start a new career. So you can spend your precious time on things that are meaningful to you and that you really value. And at this point, you might ask me, so how much was my Career Freedom Fund? Around 10 years ago, when I left my job without having anything else lined up, I had saved up $50,000. And this is a coincidence. I didn't construct the example on purpose to match this number. Somehow it just ended up to be $50,000. And by the way, this did not include any investments or retirement funds. This was purely hard cash. And was this money enough? No, not at all. It was much less than I needed. In fact, back then, I really didn't have a solid plan for what I'd be doing next. I mean, I sort of had a plan and it sounded very inspiring, but it was really not well thought out. And the worst thing was that I never really thought about when and where my next paycheck, whether that's from my business or from another job, would come. I just quit my job with that money and I thought that, okay, this would kind of be enough, hoping that somehow everything would work out. So my tip for you is, yes, you can quit your job even though you do not have any other job lined up, but you do need to have a solid plan for when and where your next paycheck or income is going to come from. If you know that, if you have a very good idea about that, then go ahead and use the calculation that I just talked about. But what if you don't? What if you feel that you have a really hard time coming up with all these assumptions? It's really a difficult question. There is no fast and hard answer to when the perfect time is to quit your job, because what you also need to consider is that there's also an opportunity cost, right? If you stay in your job too long, accumulate money, you also miss out on all that time you could have invested in your new endeavor. But if you leave it too soon without having a good idea, you will just be wasting your money and it will just be a big mess. But in any case, if you're one of those people who already have a solid plan, then go ahead and start doubling down on preparing that Career Freedom Fund. And it's really easy to do that and keep yourself disciplined. What you can do is just use the bank account that you have right now, but within that bank account, open an additional account and call it your Career Freedom Fund. So every month or even every week, put some money into that Career Freedom account. So the next time before you're about to make this big purchase, buy a new handbag or a watch or a new sweater or whatever, instead of doing that, put that money towards your Career Freedom Fund. And pretty soon, in 3 years, in 2 years, or even in 8 months, you will be ready to finally quit that job and pursue what is fulfilling to you. But in any case, guys, if this idea sounds appealing to you, but you're not quite sure about what you want to do with your life, what you want to do with your career, what you want to do for work, then check out this video over here. This might give you some ideas. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.